the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
He's right. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Kevin Wade, back in the studio after a very long hiatus, seeking a seat in the United States Senate. Unsuccessfully, I might add, but it was quite a race, quite a run. I'm very proud of all the people whose lives we've touched. And, well, I think my new nickname is 64-Cent Kevin because among all the U.S. Senate candidates, I spent fewer dollars for each vote in the ballot box. That was 64 cents for each vote. And a big part of that, I will call it comparative success, was the efforts of my very good friends J.D. Manier and the lovely Christina. J.D., are you with me on this Monday?
Kevin, it's so good to be back with you, doing studio work and spreading the good news out across the fruited plain. Conservative Commando Radio Show.
On WNJC 1360 AM, and I am delighted to again be joined in the studio by none other than Silent John Forsyth, Jr. John? Now you know why we call him Silent John. J.D., we have a heck of a show lined up for our listeners today. You want to walk us through the schedule?
Well, yeah, we do have an excellent show, I think. We've got Liz Peek, columnist for Fox News and New York Sun, Fiscal Times. He's going to talk about this Ferguson issue, and you're going to be leading that interview, Kevin. But it's what are the solid facts about the African American community in America? Are they worse off in the last 5 or 6 years? And I'm looking forward to your talk with her. I'm in, and then that's at 3:30. At 4 o'clock, we have Ted Shubat. And he is the son of Waleed Shubat, a former member of the PLO and the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, Mr. Shubat is famous for some articles and books he has written, and he's a tremendous Christian activist, rescuing Christians in the Middle East, Pakistan. But we're going to focus on the country of Nigeria with his son Ted. And then why don't you tell us about, go right back, you got Jason Hart. That should be a great interview at 4:30, I think, Kevin.
Yeah, Jason Hart comes in at 4:30. He's a reporter for Watchdog.org and Ohio Watchdog. And he's going to talk to us about the NEA and their political activities. That's the National Education Association. And apparently they spent $35 million in the most recent election cycle. And we're going to find out what they got for that $35 million and what they wanted to get. But many of us see that the NEA is in direct opposition to our own best interest for the education of our kids. And, of course, they see it differently, and they've had $35 million to spend. But Jason Hart will fill in those details when he comes on Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 4:30.
You know, Kevin, when you're going to be interviewing Jason Hart, I want our audience to know, I mean, you're back behind the radio, Mike, but there was a Citizens United moment. You know, that's what the NEA decries and the left decries against. But you had one incredible Citizens United moment in a nationally televised debate in Delaware. And do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about that? Because, I mean, it was one of those there he goes again Reagan-style retorts that we'll never forget.
Well, my opponent, Senator Chris Coons, reelected now in November for 6 years. He was originally in the Senate to fill out Joe Biden's unfinished term between 2010 and 2014. And Senator Coons has been very actively fundraising the entire time he was in the U.S. Senate. Now, he and other Democrat senators, he specifically was named by George Will. George Will, a well-known and respected national columnist who writes in the Washington Post and is reprinted in newspapers across the country. George Will cited Senator Coons as being an extremist for attempting to rewrite the First Amendment and redefine what the freedom of speech is in this country for the first time since our foundings. So I brought that up in a C-SPAN debate that was televised across the country, and he responded by saying that was his action to get money out of politics. Now, I'll be the first to agree there's too much money kicking around politics, especially at the national level. But my response to his rebuttal was that he had raised $9 million in 5 years. $9 million. So I asked the audience at Mitchell Hall, broadcasting from Mitchell Hall, the University of Delaware, to raise your hand if you are $9 million better off in the past 5 years. At which point the moderators cut me off, because that's a big no-no. We were not allowed in that debate forum to speak directly to the audience to try to evoke or provoke a response. So having been corrected by the moderators, and they were right, I then looked at the TV camera for C-SPAN 2 broadcasting that debate appearance and said, for all of you watching at home, raise your hand if you are $9 million better off in the past 5 years. And I know there were no hands raised out in TV land that evening. To which point, Senator Coons responds and said, well, I didn't raise, that's not right, I didn't raise $9 million. And, of course, the reporting sleuths for the University of Delaware campus student newspaper, The Review, were quick to report and find in their summary of the debate, run in the next issue of the of the Review, that he did, in fact, raise $9 million. So there you have the pot calling the kettle black. He seems to, and this applies to all people on the left, to have a great objection to Citizens United ruling from the Supreme Court, while he and many others on the left are so very, very busy piling the campaign cash into their campaign treasuries to give them the ways and the means to basically pull a curtain over their day-to-day inactivities on behalf of the people down in Washington. So that was a very good moment, because I had a chance to remind the audience, both watching in Mitchell Hall as well as watching on C-SPAN 2, that, in fact, my opponent had raised $9 million in 5 years. J.D., thanks for the opportunity to relive that moment.
And now that was one of the great debate moments, I think, of all time. And I got to be honest, and I'm sure, Chris, there's about 4 or 5 Pinocchios with his performance there. But Kevin, what ensued after that in the next few weeks is Chris Coons, he actually abdicated. He didn't even come to some of the debates. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't want to take it too far. There was a long-standing traditional debate appearance between senatorial candidates that was held every election cycle by the oldest and largest Rotary Club in the state of Delaware. It's the Wilmington Rotary. And they would have a luncheon meeting on a Wednesday in the grand and glorious gold ballroom of the DuPont Hotel. And that would be broadcast, and the room would be filled with notable business leaders from the Delaware community. And for the first time in my living memory, very, very near that appearance date, the Wilmington Rotary contacts my campaign to say, oh, by gosh, by golly, we've decided to cancel. We've decided to cancel the luncheon debate and statewide radio broadcast. So I know I didn't have a hand in requesting that change, but I truly, truly was disappointed not having one more chance to stand up with one of the leading voices from the liberal left, Senator Coons, and argue some conservative commandos' common sense. J.D., we have about 45 seconds before we go to a hard break. You want to walk us out?
Well, it's a great thrill to be back with you doing radio again. And I invite our listeners to hang on another 2 hours. It's going to be wild and woolly a little bit, and it's going to be very informative. Liz Peak, our next one up at 3:30. Ted Schubat at 4, and Jason Hart. We're talking about Citizen United and the NEA. So God bless. We will be talking to you soon. And for a rebroadcast, let's see. We're coming out of break, so we're going to take us to the break, Kevin. Hasco like this. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with our new internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And you can listen to the Concerted Commando Radio Show at any time, any day, by calling 832-999-1199. Also, please check out our website, www.concertedcommandosradioshow.com and www.ccrshow.com.
They say I'm crazy. Don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we're trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
New Jersey is known for a lot of things. Our shore, not pumping our own gas, our malls, the Jersey tomato, and the worst state to die in. New Jersey is behind the times when it comes to death taxes, as 31 states have neither an estate nor inheritance tax. New Jersey is only one of 2 states that have both of these arbitrary taxes on the books. This is just one more reason for our retired to move to another state so loved ones are not taxed on things they worked hard for their entire lives. Our farming communities would certainly be most affected by the elimination of the estate tax. Instead of their next of kin being walloped with a tax bill they cannot afford, by eliminating the estate tax will allow them to pass down their large land holdings to their family and keep the property as farmland. Learn how to pressure our lawmakers to kill the death tax at taxpayerminute.com. That's taxpayerminute.com.
This has been the Taxpayer Minute, brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to go to foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And you are listening to the